Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about debt. And I want to talk about debt because debt has been very personal for me. Some people, when they hear about debt, they'll be like, oh my God, don't talk about debt. I'm too tired of debt. And there are others who, when you talk about debt, they say, yes, debt is good. So there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. So good debt is debt that you actually use to accumulate more money, or debt that you put towards investments that will eventually give you good returns, which will allow you to pay off the debt and have something remaining for yourself. But bad debt is basically debt that you use or that you consume, debt that you put into things that will not necessarily give you a return. And so the difference between a good debt and a bad debt is simply how you use that debt. Because take, for example, I take a debt, I put it in a business, the business gives me returns and allows me to repay the debt, and then I'm left with something small that I can then take as my profit, which I can use to invest back into the business or save it or whatever I decide to do. But bad debt, on the other hand, is the one that you just take and use it. You consume it. For example, you just use it for your personal needs. Or you actually do what we call lifestyle spending. You decide that, what, I'm going to show people that I'm the newest kid on the block. And so probably you just buy something that, will not give a return. If, for example, you buy clothes or you buy cars, you do a party or something like that, that might not necessarily give you a very good return from it. Now, the reality on the ground is that life is not perfect because there are people who have taken debt towards business and that business did not work out the way they imagined. And that is the reality on the ground. So sometimes life is not perfect. You could have all your calculations right. The bank could approve your debt and tell you, what, we're giving you this debt, go and buy that land. Or we're giving you this debt, go and build that house. We're giving you this debt, go and start a business. Now, sometimes the business might not do good. And that is where things get complicated because even though good debt should be invested towards business or towards an investment, sometimes the investment might not bring back the money that you expected, right? So let's say, for example, you had $1 million, all right? And you decided to invest it into a business. Probably according to your calculations, you expected to earn something like, assuming 3 million, which is actually way high because that's more than double the ROI. So let's approximate 2 million. Assuming that if you do your calculations right and probably the amount that you've been given to repay the loan, it all comes to something like a total of 1.25 million, or let's say 1.35. So if you take the 2 million minus the 1.35, of course, that is what you'll take home as your profit. But if the business fails to do well, then things are going to be bad because I think it's the reason as to why sometimes business people get into trouble because it is not the way you read in a book, just take debt, invest it in a business, it will give you returns, pay the debt, and then you'll remain with your profit. Life is not like that. But in any case, it is better to use debt towards investments or a business rather than simply consume it because in the end, you will have to repay it, and not just repay it, but repay it with interest. Now, interest is the money that is accrued over a period of time that your creditor, for example, the bank, the microfinance institution, or the mobile loan lender has actually set. This money will be accruing this amount over this period of time, right? So that's why we have interest rates ranging from 0 point something to 5%, 10%, 15, 18. Funny enough, they are predatory lenders. And I think I'm going to talk about that in the next video because this video is becoming too long. But anyway, they are predatory lenders who are charging very high interest rate, even way beyond what is actually recommended by the Central Bank of Kenya. It is sad, but it is happening.